didn't go through any light.
I did, trying to
I know
keep
that's
up
because
with you.
I was on it.
It's up. We're up.
Good day, everyone. This is WJZZ Cool TV. I hope you're listening to us and watching us today. Of course, as you know, you have a number of options. We stream live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and anything else that you can think of. That's a new service. Trust me, we're on it. I'm attorney Linda Bernard, and welcome today to Chop It Up with Linda Bernard. My guest today is a very distinguished man and actually native Detroiter by the name of Paul Henry Johnson. He is, a retired Detroit police officer. We're going to talk about the police department. We're going to talk about retirement for the grown and sexy and the young and sexy, and any other issue that may come up. But one of the things that I do want to focus on today are the opportunities for people who retire out of one career and really want to do another. So, and he's an expert at that. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. So listen carefully because your income potential is really unlimited. Good day, Paul. How are you today?
Good morning, Ms. Bernard. How are you? Attorney Bernard, shall I say?
Oh, that's
shall
fine.
I say?
I said earlier that the topic for this show really is professional options for the grown and sexy, which is what I think you are.
Well, thank you.
You are a retired police officer, is that correct?
That I am. Happily retired, may I add.
I see. And you started with the police department like people do with the military when you were 18, is that correct?
19.
Oh, 19 years old.
19.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And when did you retire?
I retired June 22nd of 2011.
I see. So you've been
8:30 a.m.
So you've been retired for a number of years then now.
Yes.
Actually,
yes.
almost 10.
Almost. August of this year, shall I say June of this year will be 10 years, yeah.
So you can retire from the police department after what, 25 years or 20?
Well, we had a new contract, so the formula was 25 years, 85% of your pay, or 20 years, 65% of your pay. And I think I had a crystal ball. I saw in the future that things were going to change. And when I say change, the tide of police and community was it was starting to wane.
What does that mean?
Back in the day, when I say back in the day, when I came on in 1989, the old timers, the officers that had been on the job 20 years then,
yes,
they would share things with me. And when I say the old timers, black, white, Hispanic, it didn't matter. Policing was a family type of profession. After work, we would meet in the parking lot. They would barbecue, the original tailgating. We would barbecue, we would have libations, and we would it was family. We would, talk about the day's events.
yeah.
Fast forward, people would get off work, they go straight home. Nobody would talk to anyone. Now, not to say that every precinct was like that, but I just noticed from the older guys to the younger generation, they get off work and everybody doing their own thing. And so I just saw a change, and I says, well, no sense in me staying another 5 years. Let me get out at age 42 and start my second career. I love teaching. I love interacting with the youth, and I love traveling. So I just encompass all of them together.
So you actually retired at 42 with the
42.
pension and everything?
Pension and everything until the city filed for bankruptcy, and then, of course, our pension, of course, as you know, was cut, and we lost health care benefits. So
for retirees, but
for
I think
retirees.
they're getting them back now.
Okay, and they may
Which
be,
is good.
but
And
you have to survive, without that.
That's absolutely true. But you were young and healthy, so that was...
And that helped. That helped. My dad used to tell me, you can eat a donut, but just eat one a day. Don't eat the whole box. And so I try to stick
I'm in the
to
whole
that.
box part. Don't take me a Krispy Kreme. I mean, I'm on it 6 with no problem. Then I start to slow down a little bit. So you opted to become a retiree at 42.
Yes.
And you, as I understand it, you were a teacher for a while, but out of the country, correct?
Yes. I found a teaching position in the beautiful country of Honduras, and talk about an experience. Not to say that I didn't enjoy teaching here in America, because I did. I 1 week I challenged myself and I taught K through 12. I did elementary school. Midweek I did middle school, and then the latter part of the week I did high school. And the most rewarding of that week was doing kindergarten class. I did 5 kindergarten classes comprised of 25 young people, and talk about the energy that you have to keep all those kids focused and entertained and keep their minds sharp. And at the end of each class, as I stood at the door, they all walked out and they hugged my leg.
Oh, that was so sweet.
And
There's nothing like children, actually,
nothing like
in
it.
terms of a
Exactly.
career. So how was it in Honduras? Now you're a police officer. You've been doing some teaching in Detroit, and then you go to Honduras.
Yeah, like I said, I found a job on Craigslist, and I interviewed via
So
Zoom.
I want everybody to listen to that. Check out Craigslist for these opportunities.
Oh, yes.
You're not bound to Detroit. Your
Yes.
feet are not in clay.
Yes.
You actually can do other things, and you don't even speak Spanish or anything like that.
I don't, and that's not what they hired me for. They hired me to teach English as a second language.
Okay.
And I even asked them that. I said, my Spanish is un poquito, which means very
Very
little.
little.
And they said, that's fine. The kids don't want you to speak Spanish. As a matter of fact, if the kids were caught speaking Spanish amongst themselves, once they entered the room, I was told to immediately check them. And they would, but kids are going to be kids, right? They want to say, "Oh, look at this new guy," in their native tongue.
Yeah, right.
And so I could pick up on a few things, but I would just quickly say, "Hey, no speaking Spanish in class." And they, "Sorry, Mr. Johnson, we won't do it again."
So they were polite?
Polite was not the word. I was almost taken aback when they came into the room. Every student would say, "Good morning, Mr. Johnson." And we're talking high school students.
Really?
"Good morning, Mr. Johnson." I say, "Good morning." And once they leave, "Have a good day, Mr. Johnson." And once again, not to say that the students here in America weren't cordial, because my mom and dad used to say, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
It never does.
So the parents, or shall I say, the students whose parents have raised them the right way. And so they're very, very respectful. But it was just the attention that if I would excuse myself from the classroom, go to the restroom, and come back, kids are going to be kids. They'd be laughing, talking amongst themselves. As soon as I entered the room, I didn't even have to say class attention. They immediately stopped what they were doing and were attentive.
So is that something American parents need to listen to, I think, carefully? When you teach your kids to be courteous and respect adults, and especially respect their teachers.
Yes.
And follow directions, which is very hard to do sometimes. Yes. Your child reaps the benefits, and the teacher can teach. She or he is not disciplining all the time.
If you only
taking
have
people to the office.
Right. If you only have 55 minutes, 50 minutes from the time the bell rings to the time that the next bell rings, you've got to get as much information, conveyed to the students, right? And then you got to have time for Q&A. Some kids want to engage, and with that, the clock is ticking. Imagine if you spend 5 to 10 minutes trying to get the class to come together.
Right.
So you've lost 10 minutes of that.
So were the kids on time in Honduras?
They were in the class upon me walking into the classroom. If I was already in the classroom, they would come in, and when the bell rang, they were there.
There's no drama. No getting kids out of the hallway.
I mean, kids, of course, you're going to have some kids to be kids, right?
Right.
I don't know the percentage of a classroom that you've always got that one who wants to be the attention getter, right? And then you would just engage him or her. But it was almost, I'm trying to think of the word, when
tell our audience
when
there.
All eyes are on you.
Mm-hmm.
All eyes are on you when you walk into the room, and they're ready. They're ready. So my lesson plan had to be prepared. It's sort of like it's game time, it's show time, and they're ready, and they're like sponges. Mm-hmm. They want to learn, and they will engage you. So yeah, it was a pleasant experience.
But then you came back to the United States right before COVID. Is that correct?
Now I did. Now here's the irony of that. Okay, and my dad and my mom would always say everything happens for a reason. So I put in my leave day request early. Okay. I wanted to rendezvous with a cousin that lives in Texas. Now, Honduras and Belize, it's only a 3-hour flight from the island or from South America to the tip to Texas. So I said, okay, I want to take that flight in February. Then I said, well, since I'm at it, why don't I also put in a leave day request in May 24th to be exact, because one of my nephew's daughters, his youngest daughter, was graduating from high school, and they said, well, that you're requesting 2 separate days. I said, yeah, one in February and one in May. Well, they said, well, the country's dangerous, and we don't want you to get in trouble. I said, well, I know that. I knew it was dangerous when I went to the bank, and there were 2 armed guards outside the bank. Now imagine this: 2 armed guards outside the bank with shotguns. When you walk in the bank, an additional 3 armed guards in the bank. I said, what's going on here?
I wouldn't be going to the bank.
Well, but you have to go to the bank, right? You got to do your business transaction, but not just the bank. The grocery stores, the cell phone company, their gas stations are comprised of 1 gas pump and a shack where the person to get your money. Armed shotgun officer there. Armed police everywhere. So I knew then that, yeah, this is different. But I felt safe. I would take walks after class. I would walk down this dirt road to the main road and just get the vibe of the city. Yeah.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to WJZZ Cool TV. It's a real pleasure to have you with us today as our listening and watching audience. Our guest is Mr. Paul Johnson, a retired DPD teacher who's going to teach us all about how to retire at 42 when you're just grown and sexy and keep it moving and keep making money, which is what he's doing. I'm an attorney and your police commissioner for District 2 here in the city of Detroit. It's a pleasure to see you. It's a pleasure to bring you this broadcast. And I urge you once again to vote for Linda Bernard in November of this year for police commissioner for District 2. Now, you mentioned what you were doing in Honduras, but when you came back to the United States, you decided to relocate from Detroit to Las Vegas.
Yes.
The real city of lights. How did that happen?
Well, true story. 51 years of my life, I had never visited Las Vegas, and there were 3 reasons why. Having been married for 20 years, now divorced, my then wife, we never visited Las Vegas. My coworkers, my buddies, they would go. They would take yearly trips. It might be Vegas, it might be Miami. Some of them did go internationally, but to like the Dominican and things like that. But I'm not a gambler, although I worked 6 years in the casino, the gaming unit at MGM specifically. Gambling wasn't my thing. My dad never taught me how to play cards. My daughter's 21 in her 3rd year in college. She knows how to play spades and tunk and all the other games. I don't even know how to shoot dice. I do know how to play roulette. And to me, it's simple. You just take your chips and put them on the numbers and let the ball spin, right? But with that, never been to Vegas. So I said, well, it's September. It's about to get cold, and I don't want to see another winter. So what I decided to do was go on Craigslist, and I found what they call an Airbnb, and a 4-month deal. Around $1,800, which you do the math, it came out to like $468 a month, and it just worked out.
So you liked Vegas?
I loved Vegas until I got a call to go to Kuwait.
Yeah, but you had decided really to leave and to live in Las Vegas. You're grown, and you did some other jobs while you were there as well.
Yeah.
But once again, you were fully retired, and
Yes.
just decided
Supplementing my
to
pension.
do things
Mm-hmm.
differently
Mm-hmm.
and decided to work. Most people, many people,
Mm-hmm.
will supplement
Mm-hmm.
their pension
Mm-hmm.
with a separate income.
Mm-hmm.
Before we talk about Kuwait and we
Okay.
advise our listening audience about how to do this. Um, what was was it a big challenge for you to leave your daughter in Michigan and go to Honduras or
Not really.
move to Vegas or
Not
no?
really.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because when she left, my daughter, when she left for Hampton University, which, as you know, is in Virginia, the hard part was for me, for her to leave. Like, I'm my daughter and I, we're really close. I have this saying: we literally have 520 consecutive Saturdays together from birth to age 10. And at age 10, one Saturday she saw her girlfriends coming down the street, and she let my hand go, and I knew then, my daughter's growing up, and so, but all our Saturdays were together. The library, going to the mall, teaching her how to fish. Here in Palmer Park, there's a little pond there.
Yeah, there is.
And it's funny. She caught a boot. The only thing she's ever caught was a boot. She reeled in a boot, and her cousin caught an actual fish because they put fish in the pond.
So you were comfortable with disconnecting from your Detroit family, so to speak.
I was.
Okay, so then
because my mom is deceased. She lived to be 94. Dad had passed, 2001, and so my immediate family wasn't
your
there.
Your sister lives in Atlanta.
Sister lives in Savannah. Nieces and nephews live in the Atlanta area, and so it helped that I didn't have someone to hold on
well,
to.
ladies and gentlemen, it just goes to show you when you're free as a bird, when you cut those ties, when you divorced, etc., you really can, using my expression, you can giddy up. And I really do believe in being able to giddy up. And his point to me right prior to the broadcast was that he has two very important things on him at all times. What are those two things?
My valid driver's license and my valid passport.
Okay.
And I'd say valid because you can have a driver's license or a passport, and if they're not valid, you can't. I mean, you can drive, but if you get caught with an invalid driver's license, some police officers will lock you up for that. Not just write your ticket, it could lock you up.
Yes, they can, and confiscate your vehicle.
And confiscate your vehicle.
Which is the bad part.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So so then you're in Vegas, but before leaving for that, you had started training and working out to be in Kuwait. Well, first of all, how'd you find out about Kuwait, and then what did you have to do to get ready for that assignment?
Okay, so the job in Kuwait, I went online and didn't look on Craigslist. I looked on Indeed.com. And as some people may or may not know, you can post your resume on Indeed.com, and the employers will find you. They'll seek you out. And so how the algorithm works, it'll show you all the jobs that you qualify for.
Okay.
Me being retired police officer, me having training in executive protection. I was happy and blessed and honored to have been on the executive protection team for Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick during his early administration, his first term. And so I had the necessary experience, shall I say.
Right.
And so a lot of companies look for that. And so I had what it took, and I saw the job. It was a force protection officer in Kuwait working specifically on an Army base, and our job would be to check the IDs of the foreign nationalists that worked on the Army base. We would check for the IDs, make sure that they were authentic, make sure that the expiration date had not expired, and make sure the person holding the ID is actually the person. Because as you know, some people will give their girlfriends or their boyfriends their ID and say, "Hey, go to work for me, and I'll cover for me."
Yeah, but not only that, you can sometimes keep your ID from your employment, and I guess you would also check the computer to make sure they were still current, even though they had the ID.
Exactly.
Which is equally important.
Exactly.
But Kuwait is one of the richest countries in the world, if not the richest. and
Beautiful
deciding
country.
to take an assignment there, ladies and gentlemen, is not like what you see on television. There, it's not a war zone.
No.
It's actually a luxury zone.
Yes.
Hermes, Louis Vuitton,
Yes.
Gucci,
Ferrari stores.
the finest stores
Yes.
and vehicles in the world are there. I think the average income for a Kuwaiti citizen, as I recall, a few years ago, was like $180,000 a year. Their income is subsidized by their country. And they're very, you know how we're having this issue now about open borders and so forth. There's none of that stuff in Kuwait. You cannot walk into Kuwait. They don't.
right.
They the only people that they benefit or help are Kuwaiti citizens. It doesn't matter about anything else.
Right.
I mean, and it's hard to get in, and they will put you out. And I have an expression before God gets the news. They
Yes.
don't play. They do not
They don't play.
You
Yes.
know, they have structured their society around their people in order to build their people in their community. And there's time out for anybody that's not doing that and who's not a part of that. So, but you were a part of it because you were on our base, correct? On the American base,
Correct.
And based on what I understand, there are numerous checkpoints. There.
Yes.
And because you know how you see that stuff on TV,
Yes.
where these bombers, I mean, people with grenades and stuff on them, and you know,
bomb jacket.
bombs in there and bombs in their cars. They just sort of they can't get through to our embassy or our part of Kuwait, can they?
No.
Tell me what it's like.
So
Tell us our audience what it's like. This is what you can do after you're retired. And ladies are over there too.
Oh,
American
a
women
lot
and men.
of women
American
are over there.
women and men.
A lot of women over there. So let me
and it pays
it pays
$90,000 a year, roughly,
Tax-free.
and it's tax free.
Tax free.
$90,000 US a year,
yeah.
tax free.
Yeah, that was the perk. But let me share with you and your listeners and viewers, the next time or the last time that you drove out to Metro Airport, and I've done this, I don't know, 1,002 times, right? Taking my daughter to the airport today. When you drive down 94, right, from let's say Metro Detroit, you hop on 94 and you come up at that Middle Belt exit or even the Merriman exit. You hang that left, you whip around, and you pull up into the airport and you drop off your loved ones, your family members right at the door.
Correct.
You give them a hug, you get out the car, you give them their suitcase, and you say goodbye. Of course, once they go into TSA, that's it. Most countries, hear me out, most countries visualize that trip, 94, coming up at Middle Belt. The first checkpoint will be Telegraph Road. There will be a checkpoint there. They will, what they call, scrub the car, right? Walk up under the car with the mirror.
I've seen that.
From that point,
That only happens when you're coming across the border legally in Mexico.
Right,
but
right.
other than that,
Right,
it doesn't happen.
right. Continue to the airport. There will be another checkpoint, maybe at Merriman. By the time you get to the airport to let your loved one or family member out the door, that car has already been checked. That doesn't happen here in America. And not to say that I'm giving out some information that could be detrimental.
No, it's common information.
Do you know if terrorists want to bring down a commercial airline, all they have to do is pull over in their car on Merriman Road and Wick, or even Merriman Road and Airport Drive, and use a grenade launcher, and they can bring down a plane that's either landing or taking off. And the most detrimental airline is not Delta, it's not Spirit, and I talk about Spirit. Which one do you think terrorists would want to bring down, and why?
Because it says America.
It says American Airlines.
American was easy.
Not United,
No,
not Delta,
no.
but
Anything
American.
that says America.
Anything that says America.
Because of our actions in the Middle East.
That part. But once again, to digress, we just drive straight up to the airport and get out and tell our loved ones have a good trip. But
Yes,
other
we
countries, you've got to go through 5 checkpoints before
get
you
to the
even
airport.
get to the airport.
I see.
Yes.
And we have that, and you were guarding one of those checkpoints for our embassy. Is that correct?
Well, not the embassy, the Air Force, the Army base.
Our Army
Yeah,
base,
the
which
Army
is
base.
equally important. How many Army personnel do we have over there?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
A lot of barracks, a
Um,
lot of people.
well, a lot of people because we have our allies. They're there,
Yeah.
right? And then of course the army, and then of course the government contract companies. You got Constellas, you got SS Group.
All kinds of contracts.
All kinds
Yeah,
of
Defense
contracts.
Department contractors,
Exactly,
right? They all
exactly.
have a land and everything
Right.
there.
And then you have the Air Force Base, and there's a separate entity.
Yeah,
So there are plenty of, what I'm saying is there's plenty of jobs over there for people, not just in former law enforcement, but logistics. Just like you need secretaries to run anything, there are jobs for that. There are people who are watching other people's children. So there's childcare. There's a lot of, if you just want to experience living in Kuwait, but now mind you, the temperature is 125 surface and 135 air. But it's a dry heat. I always tell people it's a dry heat.
Then that's not to say. No,
It's
I'm
not
out of
humid.
Vegas when it's
Okay,
like that. I
okay.
can't take it.
Well, I
No,
think there's a
I
difference.
can't melt.
I think there's a difference in dry heat than humid.
There is. There
Okay,
is.
okay.
You're more
Okay.
miserable with humidity.
Yeah, that's
but
point.
you are miserable anyway at 125.
Well, that's what water is, and they actually give us salt tablets.
No, that's easy for you because you're bald headed and everything. You know, it's easy for you. You can just pour water on your head.
Yeah.
Girls aren't going to do that. So.
But there are women over there though. Now
I know that there are women over
and
there.
they braid their hair and they go for it.
That's wonderful. But no, not 125 degrees. But I guess at 180,000 a year to be a Kuwaiti, and that be your guaranteed income from the government, then that would help with a lot of air conditioning.
And there are Americans that have been over there. Some of my
course.
supervisors had been over there for 12 years.
Americans have been everywhere in the world.
Well, I know
as you
that, but I'm just saying they decided to leave America and go and
I'm
work.
not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, but they still need to be careful because that's a whole different. There's no U.S. Constitution over there, and so you
Speaking
really
of Constitution,
you really have to address issues regarding Islamic law.
Let me share a quick story with you about.
And then I got to talk about Detroit.
Coming from Honduras, walking through the airport, coming back, the guard, he told me vamos. Vamos means let's go.
That's
okay,
right.
but because I'm a gentleman, I let a lady go in front of me, and I don't know if he noticed what I was doing, but he pushed me. Being a former police officer, I don't like to be touched, and I wouldn't take up someone's personal space, and it kind of irritated me. But I immediately thought, I'm in another country, and if I get locked up, ain't nobody coming to get me until they decide to let them know
Correct.
that I'm there. So I took it,
You gotta.
and I kept walking.
Called eating humble pie.
I ate it.
Yep.
I ate it with a glass of milk.
Right, but there was steam coming out of your ears.
Oh my goodness.
Steam coming out
Oh
of your
my
ears.
goodness.
I
But yes.
understand. No, when you're in a different jurisdiction,
Yeah.
as my mother used to say all the time, when you got your head in the lion's mouth, you got to pat him on the head and ease it out. Don't let that lion chomp down on your head.
Not at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to WJZZ Cool TV today. Please, turn on your Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and follow us today. Our topic of conversation with former Detroit police officer Paul Johnson is job opportunities for retired people who still consider themselves grown and sexy. And so, therefore, he has been, since he retired from the police department at 41?
42.
At 42. He's been in Honduras. He teaching English. He doesn't know Spanish. He's relocated to Vegas, and he also did an assignment in the country of Kuwait. And that was what we were just talking about their different legal system and so forth. But when you work in the Middle East, when you take an assignment in the Middle East, you're paid about 2 to 3 times more than what you're paid in the United States, and your entire income is totally tax exempt. So that's the good part. So he $90,000. That's $90,000 tax exempt, which is the equivalent of about $135,000 if you're staying in the United States. Okay, so now you're sort of if you will, I'm calling a bi-city person. You're in Detroit some of the time because you want to escape the summer heat in Vegas. So you came back here for a real summer, and then you'll go back to Vegas, you say in September, October, when it cools off there. Because it's going to be 130, 135 in Vegas this summer.
Well, I experienced 111 the whole week, and while it was 111, I ran every day because my job requires me to run a mile and a half under 17 minutes, and my time was like 13:05. And I did that, but I didn't do it in the hottest part
No,
of the
you
day.
don't. You can't. Yeah.
So in the morning,
Earliest in the
we're
morning,
talking
right.
in the morning. We're
Dawn.
talking 7 to 8 o'clock.
Dawn.
It,
Right.
it's already hot.
Right.
It's already hot. So yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. That's a
But it's
fact.
great. It's a great workout. It's
Okay.
great conditioning.
Well, now that you've had this experience as a police officer in the city of Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
in the experience as an officer, if you will, for our government, not as a military person, but as an officer in Kuwait, and of course you aware of all the things that have been happening in the United States since you've been back about policing and so forth. What's your take on the civil liberties issues regarding the police department? I'm a commissioner, so I set the policy for the police department, but a number of Detroit's policies have come under fire. One is no-knock warrants. Detroit allows for no-knock warrants only in certain situations, and it actually requires, for your information, the approval of the chief of police. It has to be like a person has been kidnapped and is in the place, or they're terrorist, like against the United States of America. There are about four those sorts of classifications where there are really serious issues. Not you just can't do a no-knock warrant like you did in the Breonna Taylor case. Just come in because you think an American citizen did something. It has to be. It's almost like a federal issue for you to be able to come into Detroit's homes with a no-knock warrant. So that's one issue. So there's a lot of controversy about that, about whether or not we're going to do whether or not we're going to keep any no knock warrants. A lot of people want them eliminated. The other problem, though, Mr. Johnson, is that when people are serving an ordinary search warrant, you come to my house, you think my brother's there, or you may want to arrest me, and so you do this, and so. I only have 30 seconds to get to the door before you can break down the door. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, it's 30 seconds. That's a problem to me, and I've raised it with with the department and with the commission. So we need to address this policy.
Okay.
So I mean, but no knock warrants are legal throughout the United States. The George Floyd Act will make them illegal, at least from a federal level.
Can we go to a scenario?
Yeah, I know, and I've heard many of them
Okay.
where it's important.
Okay.
Like they say, in order to deal with people who are drug dealers,
device is ready to pair.
Right.
with drug dealers and so forth. And my
Or
position,
murder suspects. Let's not just say drug, because all
not,
drug
not
dealers
a murder,
are.
to
Okay.
me, not
All
a
right.
murder suspect. If
Okay.
you're committing a murder,
Well. Okay.
you can.
Okay. So we're going. We're about
wait
to
a minute.
engage now.
But the drug thing. Okay, so you have to wait before you can break in my place, which allows me to flush the drugs. So what? So be it.
Okay.
The drugs are gone.
Okay.
But and that means you won't get me that time for that. You have to get me
Okay.
some other kind of way.
All right.
But to be able to, break down the door, it takes me 2 minutes to get to my door. I even holler out the window, "I'm coming,"
Okay.
But,
Okay.
So but the police want this. I mean, they want to keep their 30-second thing to serve an ordinary warrant,
Okay.
and these limited circumstances for no knock.
Okay.
So,
May
cool,
I
I'm listening.
share?
That's
Okay.
what you want to say.
So, in my early career, I guess I was what they called a young cowboy. As a rookie cop, I'm going to be honest with you. Being a police officer is full of excitement. Now, every day is not an exciting day. Most days just handling domestic violence, family trouble runs, dealing with people, right? But then there are those days that you get that what they call a hot run. The hot run is it could be a hold up alarm at a bank. A hot run could be now mind you, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have the shootings that we have now here in America. So if there was a shooting back in early 90s, it was exciting. Let's just say. So
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal. It was a real big deal. So when people are, and most police officers, if you have family members, or current, retired, they know this. When you get that run, it's action. You and your partner, it's you and your partner. So you focus in, you
Turn
zoom,
that siren on,
all that,
and
you
you
get
going
there.
100 miles an hour.
And you get there, right? The adrenaline's pumping, and to be tactical, meaning the training that you receive, you have to apply it. Now let's go back to these warrants. It's a life and death situation, and it's a decision call, right? You make the wrong decision, and it can cost you your life. You make the wrong decision, and it can cost someone else's life. Bottom line, you're doing what you're trained, the at best knowledge that you have, right?
Right.
And there's a saying, rule number 1 in any situation is don't panic. Rule number 2 is to always repeat or remember rule number 1. Because if you panic, things can go awry, okay? So the upper hand, okay?
You have the upper hand. You're the police officer.
Okay,
you
say that. Okay, you say that.
Wait a minute. You've got on 30 pounds of gear.
Okay.
You've got a gun. Now you've also got a taser. You've got that, but we used to call billy club, but it's much more dangerous than a billy club now. I mean, you have all kind, and you've got in communication. And in Detroit now, they even have helicopters for like chases. They don't chase anymore. Incidentally,
No.
said you were a police officer.
No,
they don't do that anymore.
Right, they stopped before I left.
Oh, okay. So they don't. There are no chases.
But here's my point: to have the tactical advantage, that's what every military person and every law enforcement person wants to have.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now there are some people who, and this is just my take, they've chosen a profession. That profession could be narcotics, that profession can be whatever, right? They have tactical advantage too. The weaponry that police and military have, they have them as well. The AR-15 has become the weapon of choice, not just for law enforcement, but for the criminal element as well.
Correct.
Right? And some of these guys train. My point is this: with the law, knocking versus not knocking. I've seen raid teams go into drug houses. Detroit police, as they're ramming the door,
That's right.
boom.
That's right.
Right? That's a tactical advantage. You can't say that you didn't say the police. And I'm going to say this. I know everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but the neighbors know where the drug house is because they're the ones who called and had to do the 3 buys before you can get a legal raid on a property. Sometimes they get it wrong. Sometimes they raid the wrong house. It happens. But the most part is, if you're a drug dealer, you know eventually there's going to be a knock on your door. And you can say, well, I didn't know it was the police, so that's why I shot. Okay, that could be a defense. But if you see police officers, the raid van pulling up, they've got police, they've got sheriff on their jackets, on their vests.
Brianna was in her bed, and the police broke down the door.
I am so
and came into her
I'm so
unit.
sorry that baby lost her life.
And then
but
lied about it.
But we do know why the police were there. Correct? Why were they there? Why did the police come there?
They were looking for a person that had nothing to do with her, and they knew that person didn't live there anymore.
Okay.
That was.
But that was the intel.
People.
But that was the intel that they had.
No, it wasn't the intel.
Okay.
Before they did the raid, when you look at even in the grand jury thing, before they did the raid, they knew that person had moved to a different spot.
Okay.
That's where they were supposed to be. They were at A when they should have been at B.
Okay.
And her boyfriend had a weapon, and when the door was knocked down and they came in like that, he thought people were breaking in to hurt them. And he shot a single bullet. Didn't shoot anybody, because most people don't shoot straight anyway.
But he fired a weapon.
And then
caused,
they lit up the whole place.
Exactly. And that's what police officers do. You hear one shot go off. Let me say this. Because I can't speak for every
use of force is a real issue.
I can't
and restraint
I
by
can't
the police.
speak for every police officer in America, but I can share my personal experiences. The summer of 1990. The Burger King on Grand River in Hayden was robbed at 2 a.m. Long story short, the police officers got there. There were 4 officers, myself and 3 other officers. We caught the gunman. He had a sawed-off shotgun. He was running down the alley, and we told him, stop, police. He hit the ground, meaning he fell down. He rolled over, And I remember seeing him holding a shotgun leveled at us. Not a single officer fired. I was a rookie and I didn't know any better. I thought, well, if no one else is shooting and he hasn't fired a shotgun blast, then we can just successfully arrest him. It takes seconds for him to pull that trigger, and he could have killed at least two of us. My point being, every situation is different, and I thank God. I thank God that we didn't fire. But as if someone had fired of those four, immediately the other three would have fired, because that is a reaction.
That is
Psychologists have there's a term for it.
That I call it you guys making people Swiss cheese. They have so many holes in their body that they're like Swiss cheese, which is a problem for me. Okay. But I'm glad you guys exercise restraint.
Well, psychologically,
and no one was hurt.
Psychologically, you don't know how many shots you fired when once you engaged. That's a psychological fact.
Oh, I didn't know.
No one says, okay, I'm gonna shoot him 3 times, or she says I'm gonna shoot 3 times. They'll ask you after it's over.
An automatic weapon is still firing when your finger's on the trigger, right?
Well, some weapons are automatic, but most weapons you have to squeeze the trigger to get right. That's why they call them semi-automatics, right? Oh. But my point is this: it's a trauma. It's you're experiencing trauma, and every police officer, male or female, knows that when you go to the gun range twice a year, you're shooting at what's called a silhouette. It's a paper target. They don't teach you to shoot when the target's shooting back at you. And I've heard bullets whizzing by me, and it puts you in a whole different state of mind. But I digress.
No, okay. So the issue right now, though, I think for the Detroit Police Department as well as departments across the country is actually training of officers in 2 areas. Mm-hmm. Number one, with respect, quite frankly, I'm calling it racism because I've personally seen this and experienced this and had clients with this problem. If you're young and if you're black and if there are 4 black guys in a car mm-hmm. on 7 Mile, mm-hmm. they're going to get stopped.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to tell you how disturbing this is to me that you just get stopped because you're driving while black. It's so bad, Paul, that an officer said this to me and he was joking. And I didn't take it as a joke, and I almost had him disciplined as a result of it. The only place is safe for 4 black men to be together, or 5, is a basketball court.
He's right.
That is outrageous. And it's an outrageous indictment of our police department, particularly in a black city.
So can I share something with you?
I don't know. Not if it's on the side of that foolish racist thinking.
In 1980, I was stopped. I was 12 years old. I was 11 with some other my friends from church. We were coming from playing basketball, and the Big Four stopped us on Gratiot off of State Fair. It's just something that is.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It doesn't happen to white people. It is racism. Okay. Totally, it is totally racist. The presumption is that because your skin is brown, mm-hmm. that you are a criminal or engaging in a criminal activity, and from the stop from the tossing of the car to the searching of the people, where you see young black people, girls and boys sitting on the side of the curb, handcuffed and so forth, it is outrageous.
I agree.
And our department is addressing that now. That is definitely officer misconduct. And now with body cams, of course, and dash cams, we can really get the real facts, because in the past it was the officer's word against the person. Now you have that body cam on, it's catching everything, and if that's not catching it, of course, the camera on the front of your car is, and every officer has on a body cam, and it's a disciplinary matter if you if you say anything, do anything with a citizen, and it's not on tape. Your body cam has to stay on. Now, you can turn it off when the 2 of you are just kicking it, or you want to go to the bathroom or something like that. But the minute that you engage with a citizen, that body cam is on so that people can see what's going on. But it's this thinking that needs to change in the city of Detroit. I am so, it's just, I took 2 guys home I was picking up a client of mine from the detention center. And there were two young guys getting out about the same time. They're about 18, 19 years, skinny, skinny, pants hanging down to their knees and all that. And so they started walking away from the detention center across the mountain. There's that grassy thing in the middle of the street to the towards the gas station where they could probably. And I asked them. I picked up my client and I pulled up to them. I said, guys, where are you going? And and they said, we're going over there to the gas station. I said, do you have a ride? They said no. I said, do you have any money? They said no. I said, where do you live? They said Lasher and 7 Mile. Now we're at Mound and 7 Mile, I guess, or 6 Mile. That's like at least 6 miles away.
Or more.
Right. And so I said, get in the car. I'll give you a ride. So I took them, and both of them they didn't know each other, but both of them had the same story. The one little one, I said, he was really smart. He seemed, and I said, where'd you go to school? He said he went to Ferndale High or something, but he had to drop out because he became homeless. Okay. And so then he said, I had to do what I had to do to survive. And he was so smart, and I noticed it. And the other guy was in school as well. But I said, what happened to you? What are you doing over here? He said, I've been in jail over here 3 days. I said, 3 days? For what? What happened to your arraignment? Why weren't you out? Where'd your parents? No parents. He said that he had taken a ride from a friend of his, like you. Let's say you're riding down the street. You see me or a guy that you know. He said, man, you want to ride? You give him a ride. I get in your car. He gets in the back. He's a little fella. There's 2 girls back there, and another guy and 1 girl and a guy in the front. Of course, they're riding down 7 Mile. The car gets stopped for no reason, just that these black people are in the car, young black males. They make them get out the car, which they have no right to do, as you and I both know. There's no probable cause for anything. They search the car. The backpack that the girl had, that doesn't look like a girl backpack, it's a boy backpack, had a gun in it. So now they're arresting everybody. He's a person who just got a ride, to not have to walk an extra 4 miles, and he knew the guy. And the girl in the car, because it's her boyfriend's gun. She's trying to save her boy. She said, oh no, it's his. It's his gun. He said, I've never seen this gun before in my life. I didn't even know there was a gun in this car. Like 5'2". So, of course, he gets taken to jail for this. But none of this would have occurred but for the illegal stop, illegal search, etc. So these are a police department abuses that I think have to be addressed. And this perception that because I'm black male, or as the congressman said, Trayvon Martin, because I have on a hoodie, then I'm a criminal. Because everybody's wearing a hoodie now. But
well, at 52, I don't drive with a hood on my head.
Well, I do.
And I'm not being chauvinistic, but women are viewed differently as males. So if you could have on a hood, you could.
But whatever. You ought to be able to.
Okay, but I can't.
Why can't you?
You're
bald-headed. Your head is
once
whole.
again, being a black male in America, the 52 years that I've been here, I've had guns pulled on me by the police. I can go into details some incidents that I've had with various police departments, state police, Michigan State Police, Ferndale Police, and Hazel Park Police, right? And my daddy used to tell me this as a kid: dead men tell no tales.
That's correct.
And what he meant by that was, if you encounter a police officer, no matter how hyped he is, you stay calm. Because even if you're right and you want your day in court. You want to, if you got to get locked up,
Correct.
Make your phone call, let your family know that you're in whatever jail, you're safe, and have them get your attorney and then tell your side of the story. But you can't, and let me say this, it's not a black or white deal. Most police officers don't like to lose a battle on the street. And I was in a situation where a guy, I was chasing him, he had assaulted someone, and he stopped and he told me, I'm not going back to prison. And so I tackled him and we engaged, and he got the best hand of me. He gave me a good behind whipping, but I survived the ordeal. So my point is this: if you're innocent and you know you're innocent,
it's not the point.
Let them take you to the precinct and make your phone call. Because if you want to stand your ground on the street, most police officers don't want to. Most police officers wouldn't have taken the behind whipping that I took on 4th Street and 12th that summer of, I think that was 1995. They won't.
Oh, they
Because
did.
one punch can knock me out. And he said he wasn't going back to prison. The one punch might have been enough for him to keep running, or it might have been enough for him to take my gun. Thank God I don't know what the outcome was because I survived it. But my point is this. On the street, and I keep saying this, it's not a black or white issue.
It is a black and white issue.
The media, okay, but this is my take. The media loves.
The abuse is of black people.
Okay.
4 white boys can ride
Okay.
from here to yonder.
You're right.
And
You're
not get stopped. And if they do get stopped, they're spoken to courteously. Where you guys going? What's going on? Have you been? You know, there's a conversation. Black guys is totally different, and even black women. Of course, now both officers are on both sides of the car. In the old days, they just had one officer. Now there are 2 officers in every car, as you know. So it just goes on and on. But you have no right to do that, and that's the problem. And that's a training issue. And it's not just limited to black males. It also affects black females, white women, officers or so on. They see 5 black girls riding like that. Same situation. They got to be up to something. They're black. There has to be something wrong. We're gonna catch them. We're gonna get it. So these are issues that impact our community right now. Some of them will be affected, of course, by the George Floyd Act. One, of course, is qualified immunity, which we didn't talk about today. And of course, this whole no-knock warrant thing is being addressed in the George Floyd Act, and a number of other things that will protect the civil rights of the community, while at the same time allowing officers some discretion, but not discretion to do that, which is what's important. So, do you have any? I'd just like to say to everyone today, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Feel free to call us here at the station anytime. Again, I'm Attorney Linda Bernard. I'm Detroit Police Commissioner for District 2, Northwest Detroit, right over here to my immediate left. And our guest today was Mr. Paul Johnson, a former Detroit police officer who now has had multiple careers since he retired at the age of 42, at the age of 42, since he retired. And he encourages you, as I do as well, to one, get on Indeed. You say get on Craigslist. Some of his positions he got off Craigslist, and look at these things and see the world. His most valuable items are his passport and his driver's license. That's a good thing, and I urge our entire audience to do the same thing. Let those be your most valuable items: your passport and your driver's license. And the world is unlimited to you then. You can go anywhere. So thank you for tuning in today.
Thank you for
having me. Again, it's WJZZ Cool TV, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Follow us and share your comments on this broadcast when you have an opportunity.